It was supposed to be another quick score, another grow house hit, another payday. But for the Essex gang, December 2021 would be the night their luck ran out. What started as a routine robbery would end in a locked metal gate, a dying man's last phone call, and a 999 recording so bizarre, even seasoned detectives were left stunned. The house on Cali Road, Tunbridge Wells, looked like any other suburban home, neat, unassuming, the kind of place where nothing ever happened. But behind its ordinary facade, it was a high-stakes operation, an Albanian-run cannabis farm, protected by men who didn't hesitate to retaliate. At 3:24 a.m., the quiet street erupted. A convoy of cars rolled up, headlights off. Masked figures moved fast, armed with sledgehammers and knives. They kicked in the door expecting little resistance. But inside, Jovan Pepuj, the lone guard, was already calling for backup. The gang stormed upstairs, chasing Pepuj into a narrow hallway. A metal security gate meant to keep intruders out became his last line of defense. He slammed it shut, but in his panic forgot to lock it. What happened next was a blur of violence. The Essex gang, realizing they were trapped with Albanian reinforcements minutes away, turned on Pepuj. A knife flashed, blood splattered the walls. And then, in a move no one could explain, one of the raiders grabbed Pepuj's phone and called 999. The operator heard everything, the shouts, the struggle, the chilling order to stab him. By the time police arrived, the house was a crime scene. Pepuj lay dead behind the gate. The gang had fled, laughing, filming their stolen plants like it was just another night out. But that 999 call, it was their undoing, and what began as a botched robbery would unravel into one of the most shocking gangland murders in recent memory. The stage for this violent confrontation had been set long before that bloody December night. Two criminal worlds were about to collide, one with ruthless efficiency, the other with reckless ambition. At the center stood the Albanian network, a well-oiled machine controlling vast portions of Britain's illegal drug trade. Their operation was clinical, suburban homes converted into sophisticated grow farms, equipped with hydroponic systems, industrial lighting, and ventilation. These weren't makeshift setups, but professional enterprises producing high-grade cannabis worth millions. Security was tight, consequences for failure severe. Jovan Pepuj, a 25-year-old Albanian national, knew the risks when he took the job. His role was simple: guard the Tunbridge Wells grow house, tend the plants, and alert the bosses at the first sign of trouble. It was dangerous work for little reward, but in this world refusing wasn't an option. Pepuj had done time before for a similar operation. Now he was back in the game, another replaceable cog in a machine that chewed up men like him. On the other side were the Essex gang, young, brash, and flush with recent successes. They'd built a reputation for targeting rival grow houses, smashing their way in, and clearing out entire crops. To them, these raids were easy money. Their arrogance grew with each unopposed hit, convincing them they were untouchable. The gang's hierarchy was loose but lethal. At its core were Kieran Stewart, 20, and Calvin Amoko, 18, violent enforcers who favored intimidation and brute force. Bartosz Malaski, 28, brought older, colder calculation. Around them orbited drivers, lookouts, and hangers-on, all drawn by the promise of quick cash and the thrill of the game. What the Essex crew failed to understand was the fundamental difference between their disorganized rivals and the Albanians. This wasn't some local operation that would cut its losses. It was a multi-million-pound enterprise with military-grade discipline. When Pepuj made that frantic call for help, he wasn't just alerting friends. He was triggering a response protocol that moved with terrifying speed. As the masked raiders burst into the Cali Roadhouse that night, they thought they were hitting another soft target. They didn't realize they were stepping into a war zone, one where the rules were written in blood, and the penalty for trespass was death. Pepuj, cornered and desperate, became the human cost of this criminal calculus. His final moments would expose the brutal reality of Britain's underground drug trade, where young men lived fast, died young, and were forgotten faster. The Essex gang was about to learn the hard way that in this world, there were players, and then there were predators, and they'd just walked into the wrong territory. The Essex gang's fatal mistake wasn't in choosing to hit a grow house, it was in failing to understand exactly whose operation they were targeting. In their world of smash and grab raids, all cannabis farms were seen as easy scores, but the Albanian run house on Cali Road was different. This wasn't just another grow-op, it was a fortress disguised as a suburban home, part of a network worth millions, protected by men who didn't just fight back. They eliminated threats permanently. Intelligence in the criminal underworld travels fast but gets distorted faster. The tip about the Tunbridge Wells location had filtered through multiple unreliable sources before reaching the Essex crew. Somewhere along the chain, crucial context was lost. The fact that this particular house belonged to one of the most ruthless Albanian networks operating in the UK. The gang heard only what they wanted to hear. An unsecured property with no heavy security, ripe for the taking. For weeks, they conducted sloppy surveillance. They noted the comings and goings. A single young man, Pepage, handling daily operations. No visible armed guards, no sophisticated alarm systems. What they failed to detect were the subtle signs of Albanian control. The rotating fleet of unmarked vans that came at irregular intervals. The fact that Pepage never left the property for more than 30 minutes at a time. The way neighbors instinctively avoided looking at the house. The gang's plan was crude but had worked before. Hit fast, hit hard, and be gone before anyone could respond. They assembled a team of 9, armed with the usual tools of their trade, sledgehammers, knives, and the false confidence of young men who'd never faced real opposition. Their backup plan? There wasn't one. What they didn't know was that the Albanians had engineered their entire operation around one simple principle. Let the first line of defense fall so the real response could be overwhelming. The house itself was designed to delay intruders, reinforced doors, internal gates, choke points that funneled attackers into kill zones. And Pepage, though seemingly just a lowly caretaker, was trained to do two things when threatened: lock down the interior gates and make that one critical phone call. On the night of the raid, as the Essex gang's cars rolled silently toward Cali Road, they were walking into a trap they didn't even know existed. The house appeared vulnerable, but it was Ben, and drove on Pepage. The young man they expected to cower or run was about to become the instrument of their downfall. The stage was set for a collision between arrogance and cold, calculated brutality. The Essex gang thought they were predator. They were about to discover they were prey. At 3:24 a.m., the stillness of Cali Road shattered as car doors slammed in quick succession. Shadows moved with purpose toward the unassuming house, their faces covered, weapons glinting under the orange glow of streetlights. The Essex gang moved with the cocky swagger of men who'd done this before, but tonight, every assumption they'd made was about to be proven wrong. The front door gave way with a single sledgehammer blow, the sound echoing through the empty street. Inside, Jovan Pepper jolted awake in his makeshift bed near the grow rooms. The crashing downstairs wasn't the usual settling of the house. It was the sound of his worst nightmare coming true. His hands shook as he grabbed his phone, dialing the number burned into his memory. 10 minutes, the voice on the line said. That's all the time Pepperja had to survive. Upstairs, the house revealed its true design, a maze of narrow hallways and choke points. The raiders found themselves funneled toward a metal security gate at the top of the stairs, its existence completely unexpected. Pepperjaz slammed it shut with seconds to spare, but in his panic failed to turn the key that would have locked it securely. The scene descended into primal chaos. On one side of the gate, Pepperjaj pressed his back against the flimsy barrier, his phone still connected to the Albanians now racing toward the house. On the other side, Kieran Stewart's eyes burned with frustrated rage. Their quick in-and-out job had turned into a ticking time bomb. "Fucking open it!" Stewart screamed, slamming his shoulder against the gate. When Pepperjad didn't respond, Calvin Amoko produced a knife from his waistband. The blade flashed in the dim light as it slipped between the bars, slashing wildly. What happened next unfolded with horrifying speed. The gate, never properly locked, gave way under the gang's combined weight. Pepperjad stumbled backward as the masked men poured through.
I mean, mashing up the Audi. Bro, it's both of us mashing them. Gang Dang way.
The moment the metal gate gave way, Chauvin Pepperjean knew he was dead. Time slowed as the Essex gang poured through the breached barrier, a flood of masked figures with wild eyes and bared teeth. The air smelled of sweat, cannabis, and the metallic tang of fear. Pepperjean stumbled backward, his socked feet slipping on the laminate flooring. His hands came up instinctively, but there was nowhere left to run. Kieran Stewart moved first. The 20-year-old lunged with a kitchen knife, the blade catching the dim glow of the grow lights as it arced toward Pepperjean's chest. A wet crunch sounded as steel met ribs. Pepperjean gasped, his breath coming in ragged, bubbling bursts. Blood bloomed across his white t-shirt like ink in water. "Stab him proper," Stewart screamed at Calvin Amoko, who stood frozen for a heartbeat before joining in. The attack was frenzied, uncoordinated, the work of panicked amateurs rather than professional killers. Knives rose and fell. Pepperjean collapsed against the wall, sliding down to the floor as his life leaked out between his fingers. His lips moved soundlessly, forming words that would never be there. Bartosz Molaski, the oldest of the attackers, suddenly realized what they'd done. Fuck. We need to go now," he barked, his voice cracking with panic. In a moment of surreal detachment, Stewart snatched Pepperjean's still-connected phone from the floor. "Hello? Yeah, we need an ambulance," he told the 999 operator, his tone eerily calm. The recording would later capture every damning word, the labored breathing of the dying man, the gang's panicked whispers, the wet sound of Pepperjean's last moments. Outside, car doors slammed. The Albanians had arrived. The gang's retreat was pure chaos. They crashed through an upstairs window, landing hard on the overgrown lawn below. Molaski twisted his ankle but kept running. Amoko dropped his bag of stolen plants, the carefully cultivated buds scattering across the pavement. Stewart paused just long enough to film a Snapchat video. "Look at this lot we got," his manic grin belying the horror they'd just left behind. As their cars screeched away from Cali Road, none of them looked back at the house. None saw the Albanian enforcers kicking in the already broken door. None witnessed the moment they found Pepperjean's body, still warm, his dead eyes staring at the ceiling where the grow lights hummed. Back in the fleeing cars, laughter filled the space where guilt should have been. The gang celebrated their haul, passing around phones to admire photos of the stolen plants. They didn't know yet that Pepperjean's blood had soaked into the soles of their shoes. Didn't realize the 9999 call was still connected. Couldn't imagine how quickly and completely their lives were about to unravel. The murder had taken less than 3 minutes. In that brief window of violence, the Essex gang had crossed a line from which there was no return. They'd left behind more than a body, they'd left a trail of evidence, a recording of their crime, and most damning of all, the arrogant certainty that they'd gotten away with it. By sunrise, the first CCTV images would be in police hands. By afternoon, the 999 recording would be analyzed. And within 24 hours, the manhunt would begin in earnest, not for unknown assailants, but for the same grinning idiots who'd filmed themselves fleeing the scene. Pepperjean was dead, but in the digital age, even murderers leave ghosts behind, and these ones had documented their own downfall. The first officers arriving at Cali Road found a scene of eerie dissonance, the sweet, skunky odor of high-grade cannabis mixing with the copper stench of fresh blood. Upstairs, Chauvin Pepperjean's body lay cooling beneath a crumpled bedsheet, his fingers still curled in a final futile attempt to stem the bleeding. But it wasn't the brutality of the murder that would break this case wide open. It was the staggering carelessness of the killers. At the heart of the investigation sat 2 damning pieces of evidence: a still-connected 9999 call and Pepperjean's smartphone, abandoned beside his body. When detectives played the recording, the audio painted a vivid picture of the murder in progress. "Stab him proper," Kieran Stewart's voice rang out clear as day, followed by the wet, meaty sounds of blades finding flesh. The operator's calm questions, "What's your emergency?" were met with panicked whispers and the rustle of movement. Most astonishingly, the call remained active for a full 8 minutes after the attack, capturing the gang's chaotic retreat and their oblivious celebration as they fled. Forensic teams worked through the night. Every surface told a story. The bloody knife, discarded near the gate, its handle slick with partial fingerprints that matched Emoko's right hand. The cannabis trail, freshly cut buds led from the upstairs window to the curb like gruesome breadcrumbs. The Snapchat videos, Stewart's boastful posts timestamped 3:37 a.m., showing grinning faces and bagged plants with Pepperjar's house clearly visible in the background. But the most damning evidence came from the killers themselves. In their panic, they'd left behind 1. A designer hoodie hung on the banister, its DNA matching Molaski's arrest records. 2. A dropped wallet containing Stewart's provisional driver's license. 3. Security footage from a neighbor's Ring doorbell, capturing the gang's faces as they tore off masks to breathe during their escape. Detective Superintendent Miles watched the video playback in stunned silence. "These aren't criminal masterminds," he remarked to his team. "They're kids who've watched too many gangster films and forgotten cameras exist." Then, by dawn, the evidence was overwhelming. The 999 recording alone provided enough for murder charges, but the gang had gifted investigators something even more valuable: their unfiltered arrogance, digitally preserved for eternity. As the first arrest teams mobilized, one question hung in the air: how could anyone be this stupid? The answer, it seemed, was a toxic mix of youth, entitlement, and the dangerous belief that their world of petty crime existed outside real consequences. The Essex gang had documented their own downfall in high definition. All that remained was for justice to hit play. The first arrests came before the blood had dried on Cali Road. Kent police moved with surgical precision, using the treasure trove of digital evidence to track the Essex gang's movements in real time. The killers had made no attempt to hide their social media posts, geotagged their locations. Their phone signals pinged off towers along the escape route, and their own Snapchat videos provided a roadmap to their front doors. 3:42 a.m., just 18 minutes after the murder, patrol officers spotted the gang's convoy speeding toward the M25. Automatic license plate readers flagged the vehicles, but commanders held back, opting for a coordinated takedown. 6:15 a.m., simultaneous raids hit addresses across Essex and East London. Kieran Stewart was found asleep in his Hornchurch bedroom, still wearing blood-stained sneakers. Calvin Emoko didn't even wake up as officers cuffed him. Bartosz Molaski put up a fight, right until detectives played a clip of his own voice from the 9:09. The scale of the operation stunned even seasoned investigators. What began as a murder probe unraveled a sprawling network. The inner circle: Stewart, Emoko, Molaski, hands still raw from climbing out the window. The drivers, caught on ANPR cameras with stolen plants in their back seats. The lookouts, their phones placing them at the scene during critical minutes. The cleaner, a 52-year-old career criminal caught burning evidence in his garden. Trials, facing overwhelming evidence. The gang's defense crumbled into finger-pointing chaos. The case split into two trials due to its complexity. One, Lewis Crown Court, May 2022, focused on the triggerman. Prosecutors played the 9:09 call in open court, forcing Stewart to listen to himself order the killing. CCTV showed Emoko buying knives at an Asda hours before the raid. Molaski's alibi collapsed when his own sister testified against him. Old Bailey, September 2022, addressed the wider conspiracy. Text messages revealed weeks of planning. "We should hit that Albanian spot." Snapchat videos became exhibits. The gang's laughter now evidence of callousness. Forensic accountants traced a road in drug profits through their accounts. The sentences, when the verdicts came down, even the hardened court reporters gasped. Kieran Stewart, life, minimum 26 years. You treated murder as a game, now you'll play by prison rule. Calvin Emoko, life, minimum 22 years. That knife didn't just take a life, it ended yours. 9 others received sentences totaling 64 years, their fates sealed by their own digital footprints. As the cell doors slammed shut, one truth became undeniable. This wasn't just justice served, but a masterclass in how modern criminals engineer their own destruction. The final irony, the cannabis they'd killed for was destroyed as evidence, worthless ash in an incinerator, just like their future. The murder of Jovan Pepoj sent alarms through Britain's criminal underworld, not because it was particularly brutal, but because of how spectacularly it backfired. In an era where every move leaves a digital footprint, the Essex gang's blunders became a cautionary tale whispered between dealers and enforcers alike. The Albanian response: within 48 hours of the murder, 3 cannabis farms across Essex mysteriously burned to the ground. A clear message from the Albanian network. But more surprising was their operational shift. Surveillance teams noted new protocols: biometric locks on growhouse entrances, encrypted dead man switches replacing simple phone alerts, professional security rotations instead of lone guards. Even organized crime had learned from Pepoj's death. Adaptation was survival. Police revolution. Kent Police's Major Crime Directorate used this case to pioneer new tactics. 1. Social media forensics teams. Now standard across UK forces, trawling platforms for criminal boasts before crimes are even reported. Real-time 999 analytics. AI systems flagging suspicious call patterns during active incidents. 3. Growhouse prediction algorithms. Cross-referencing electricity usage with rental patterns. These idiots handed us the playbook, remarked DS Sarah Chen, who led the digital investigation. Now we're reading it cover to cover. The human cost. Pepoj's family in Albania received his body in a sealed casket, no autopsy photos, no explanation beyond work accident. His younger brother, Arian, 19, disappeared en route to the UK 6 months later, presumably to finish what Jovan started. As for the Essex gang, prison hasn't been kind. Stuart spends 23 hours a day in segregation after tear attacks by Albanian inmates. Amoko's appeals have been denied twice. Malarski reportedly runs a cigarette smuggling operation from his cell, under heavy Albanian oversight. The unanswered question: why did Stuart make that 999 call? Psychologists suggest it was a moment of cognitive dissonance, his brain short-circuiting between criminal self-image and ingrained societal norms. The gang's barrister argued it showed remorse. The judge called it the dumbest act of self-sabotage in British legal history. 5 years later, the Cali Roadhouse stands empty, its windows boarded, the faint scent of cannabis still clinging to the baseboards. New gangs have risen, new growhouses operate, new idiots make the same mistakes. But sometimes when the wind blows just right through Tunbridge Wells, you can almost hear the echo of that fateful 999 call, a digital ghost reminding every would-be gangster that in today's world, the walls don't just have ears, they have cameras, metadata, and a direct line to the Old Bailey.